Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Friends of the Dar, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Ethiopia has a long and honorable relationship with Islam. The history of the kind and generous welcome extended to the Prophet Muhammad's companions during the Hijra years by the Christian kingdom of Aksum in Abyssinia, Al-Habash in Arabic, modern Ethiopia of today. One of the very first Muslims was Bilal, the first Mu'adhin, who was the son of an Abyssinian mother, and it was perhaps part of the respect the Prophet felt for Bilal that advised the companions to flee to Ethiopia for their protection. His trust was met by the king of Aksum's welcome. Over the centuries, this relationship has developed, and Islam is the second largest religion group in today's Ethiopia. Tonight, Professor Julien Loiseau, a professor in history of the medieval Islamic world at Aix-Marseille University in France, will take us into a deeper view of the topic through archaeological and funerary evidence. His lecture, entitled "The Living and the Dead: Muslim Communities in Christian Ethiopia." It will present details of a rare example of where Muslim communities have flourished and prospered in a Christian community in the Middle Ages. Professor Loiseau's earlier published studies have focused on Egypt, notably Cairo and other Middle Eastern cities, as well as on the Mamluks. Currently, he is focusing on Islam in the area of the Horn of Africa. Dar al-Athar Islamiyya is enthusiastic about his contribution of scholarly data to this vital part of Islamic history. What I'm about to say, you already know. So go ahead and do it. And let us welcome Professor Julien Loiseau.
Thank you very much. I'm deeply honored to stand before you tonight at the Yarmouk Cultural Center as part of Dar al-Athar Islamiyya 20th cultural season, and I warmly thank for this invitation Her Excellency Sheikh Houssa Al-Sabah. And I'd like also to thank the director of the Yarmouk Cultural Center, the team of Dar al-Athar Islamiyya, as well as the curators of Al-Sabah collection. My lecture tonight will take you on a journey in northeastern Africa on the Ethiopian highlands, not far from the Red Sea shore, where a mighty kingdom, the kingdom of Aksum, emerged 2,000 years ago. A kingdom whose king decided to convert to Christianity in the middle of the 4th century, as evidence in the coinage of King Ezana. Aksum, as you know, played a major role in the history of the Arabian Peninsula in the 6th century, meaning in the eve of Islam, especially following the conquests of the kingdom of Himyar by the Aksumites in 525. The king of Aksum, as it has been recalled, the king of Aksum is actually an important figure in the narrative of the early Islamic tradition under the name of Najashi, the Sirah Nabawiyah emphasizes the welcome the Najashi offered to Muhammad's companions during the Hijrat al-Habasha, few years before the Hijrah to Yathrib. The Sirah even states that the Christian king of Aksum finally converted to Islam and that Muhammad established for him the Salat al-Ghaib, the absentee funeral prayer. Present-day Ethiopia, here is a picture from a 14th century manuscript showing the envoys of Quraysh being received by the Najashi at the time of the Hijrat al-Habasha. Present-day Ethiopia actually hosts in Tigray, in the northern part of the country, a shrine which is said to preserve the tomb of the Najashi and that of several Sahaba who died during the Hijrat al-Habasha. The shrine of Negash, name of the small village close to the shrine of Negash, has only been attested since the 16th century thanks to written sources. Is it even older? Probably. And the site definitively deserves archaeological excavations, or at least investigations. However, the surveys and excavations we conducted to the south of Negash, in the villages of Bilet and Arra, just in 2018-29, these surveys and excavations have significantly advanced our understanding of ancient Islam in northern Ethiopia, an area which was at the very heart of the Christian kingdom. We were certainly not the first to take an interest in the ancient traces of Islam in Tigray. One site in particular accumulated significant evidence: the surroundings of the modern small town of Kwiha, where in the early 19th century, the English traveler Nathaniel Pierce had already reported the presence of Arabic inscriptions. In 1937, the Italian scholar Carlo Conti Rossini documented 4 Arabic funerary stelae that the inhabitants had brought to him. In the early 1960s, French archaeologists collected a dozen more, which were studied by the late Madeleine Schneider, a pioneer in Ethiopian Arabic epigraphy. The most recent discovery was made in 2000 by Volbert Schmidt, who documented an Arabic funerary stele adorned with a seal of Solomon, Khatim Suleiman, which was kept in the sanctuary of the small church of Cherkos Kwiha, for the reason that the priest saw it as a testament to the Old Covenant. So before we start our surveys and excavations in 2018, a total of 19 funerary stelae engraved with Arabic epitaphs had already been documented, all in secondary position in the vicinity of Kwiha. But the cemetery itself, from which these stelae originated, had not yet been identified. Kwiha is a small town that developed only in the 20th century. However, the hill of Cherkos Kwiha has been inhabited since the Aksumite period, and our excavations have revealed discontinuous occupation between the 3rd and the 16th centuries on top of this hill. The site of Kwiha is actually located at the junction of the north-south road, which follows the eastern edge of the highlands, and the east-west road from the lowlands to the highlands, which was used until the 20th century to transport salt extracted in the Danakil territory. The site was significant enough to be mentioned under the name of Belet or Belete on several European maps from the 15th and 16th centuries, thanks to Ethiopian monks who visited or went to Venice, Italy, where their knowledge on the topography of Ethiopia was collected by Venetian scholars. So the name Belet or Bilet was already attested in the 15th century, like this map show you. And this name, Bilet, remained locally attached to low fields where a military camp was established, and more recently, textile factories have been set up. It is there that in 2018, we were lucky enough with all my team, with our Ethiopian and French colleagues, we were lucky enough to identify and excavate a portion of Bilet Cemetery, a total of 160 square meters out of a larger area. Our surveys allowed us to add to the corpus of Bilet stelae 22 new stelae found mostly in secondary position. You have here a 13th century stele which was used here just to delimit the plots, the land plot. Most of the stelae were found already in the 1960s, and when we did our survey in secondary position. But we were also lucky enough to excavate a unique single stele in primary position, in the position it had when it was established. Then the corpus, the epigraphic corpus of Bilet, currently consists in keep this one. It consists of 42 units, predominantly comprising basalt blocks, as you can see here, along with a few fragments of inscription on sandstone. In 2018-2019, we also conducted surveys in and around the village of Arra, about 30 kilometers to the south of Bilet. Arra is a village located on the border between the highlands and the escarpment that leads to the lowlands. It's a mixed village, currently inhabited by Christians and Muslims. And in the mid-20th century, an Ethiopian Muslim scholar who graduated from Al-Azhar University in Cairo, an Ethiopian Muslim scholar, began to collect Arabic funerary stelae in Arra. Unfortunately, this first collection has since disappeared, except perhaps for two stelae kept at home by the village imam's deputy, Muhammad Ali Kahsai, whose knowledge was invaluable for us for our survey in the area. The village of Arra comprises several Muslim cemeteries, but none of them preserve ancient stela. However, a few kilometers down from the village, several cemeteries located at the base, slopes, and summits of Habera mountain have revealed numerous Arabic stelae. In total, Arra and the surrounding cemeteries, and here we have a picture of the cemetery on top of Habera mountain. We surveyed with the help of the Imam of Adigudam, the city in the vicinity. In total, Arra and the surrounding cemeteries have provided a corpus of 43 stelae engraved with Arabic epitaphs on basalt blocks, and also on a significant number of sandstone blocks, as the sample you have here on the picture, which is in sandstone. So what is the significance of this corpus for the history of medieval Ethiopia? With 85 units dating to 361 Hijra, 972 Common Era for the oldest one, to 780 Hijra 1378 Common Era for the most recent, with 85 units. The Arabic funerary stele from eastern Tigray constitutes neither the largest nor the oldest Arabic epigraphic corpus in the Horn of Africa. The stele from Dahlak Archipelago in the Red Sea, off the coast of present-day Eritrea, studied notably by Giovanni Oman and Madeleine Schneider, represent a corpus of approximately 300 units, the earliest dating back to the late 3rd century Hijra, early 10th century Common Era. Moreover, the Arabic funerary stelae of Eastern Tigray are neither the most meticulously crafted Islamic artifacts in the Horn of Africa. All of them are engraved, like the previous sample. The stone is only engraved. None is carved in Champ-Levé. None exhibits the aesthetic refinement found in several of Dahlak stelae, such as the samples preserved in the Al-Sabah collection. Here we have the stele of Fatima bint al-Hussein, died in 314 Hijra, 926 Common Era, or the stele of a certain Abu Sa'id al-Sakr, died in Dahlak in 438 Hijra, 1047 Common Era. Both are meticulously carved in Champ-Levé, and both are nowadays preserved in the Al-Sabah collection. And you can see here with this detail how careful, how meticulous was the work to carve this stele. The corpus of Dahlak Archipelago provides us with insights into a cosmopolitan Islamic society connected to the Red Sea, to the Yemen, the Hijaz, Upper Egypt, and of course connected to the Ethiopian highlands, from where came the slaves sold in Dahlak and sent mainly to the Yemen and the Hijaz. Was the slave trade the main reason of the settlement in Bilet, Ethiopia, of a Muslim community linked with the Dahlak Islands? Difficult to answer this question, but it's striking to note that the earliest deceased buried in Bilet, Ethiopia, a certain Hafs ibn Umar al-Yamami, died in 361 Hijra, 972 Common Era, that this man had a daughter, a certain Hasna bin Hafs bin Umar al-Yamami, who, according to her funerary stele, died in Dahlak in 361, 980, meaning 8 years after her father. Whatever the links between Bilet and Dahlak were, the Bilet epigraphic corpus provides the opportunity to document a settlement established in the lands where Christian royal power was reconstituted in the 11th century. As for the cemetery of Arra, here on the map, they are located about 20 kilometers from the site of Maryam Nazareth, where the Egyptian metropolitans appointed as heads of the Ethiopian church established their residency from the 12th century onwards. And here on the screen, a picture of the church of Maryam Nazareth. In other words, the Arabic inscriptions of Bilet and Arra allow us to question how, between the 10th and the 14th centuries, how Muslims lived and died at the heart of the Christian kingdom of Ethiopia. Let's begin with the cemetery of Bilet, which is the one we know best, thanks to a short excavation campaign in 2018. Most of the graves excavated were marked on the surface by a rectangular platform. Despite slightly different orientations, the markers are compatible with Muslim burial, with the body buried in lateral position and the face turned toward the Qibla, which in Billet is to the north. As you can see also, fragments of pottery were found near tomb markers, here and here, for instance. These fragments of pottery, likely resulting from intentional breakage, suggest that funerary practices, also including mourning banquets or at least funerary offerings. In the part of the cemetery we excavated, all the tombs were unfortunately emptied. All the tombs had been emptied, probably looted, at an undetermined date. Nobody's, not even fragments of bones were could be found, except for one burial which was not indicated by a visible surface marker. This burial contained the remains of a female individual dated by carbon-14 between the end of the 10th and the middle of the 12th century. The body was found in a position compliant with Muslim burial requirements. The discovery of a funerary stele still in primary position, and which is a unique case in the entire window we excavated, this discovery allows us to assert that the stelae were placed against the platform. Were placed against the platform on the head side of the deceased with the text facing outward. Some graves were even adorned with a pair of twin stelae engraved for the same deceased. A practice, twin stelae, which is a practice attested in other Muslim cemeteries of the same period, such as in Dahlak, and which is documented 5 times in Billet. This is the case of the 2 oldest stelae in the collection, which are also the most massive, engraved in memory of Hafs ibn Umar al-Yamami, a figure I already mentioned in connection with Dahlak Islands. Here are the 2 stelae that form the pair of twin stelae. This one is almost complete on these 1950 pictures, and this one is already, the upper part is already missing when the picture was taken in the 1960s. But both have been engraved for the same man, for the same deceased. Hafs ibn Umar al-Yamami is the ancestor of a family originally from the Yamama in the peninsula, and a family which is represented in the corpus of Billet by 10 other deceased, 10 other individuals, including 5 women. In Billet, not all tombs were adorned with epigraphic stelae. Our excavations have identified several tomb markers adorned with non-epigraphic, non-inscribed stelae, which means that funerary epigraphy seems, therefore, to have been reserved for a certain elite within the community. The earliest stelae in the collection, dating from the last third of the 4th century Hijra, 10th century Common Era, are engraved with an Kufic script, ornamental Kufic script, characterized by regular letters and rising tails. The final tails of such here, the noon, finding tails are rising, especially for the noon, in several places on the inscription. This Kufic script is characterized by regular letters and rising tails. This is the case here with this stele in the name of a grandson of Hafs el-Yamami, died in 399, 1009 Common Era. However, this should not conceal the significant technical and paleographic disparity among the whole corpus. First consideration, the disparity in size. You have here on this slide all the stelae or fragments of stelae we found during our surveys, which are displayed here on the same scale. And you can figure how different is the size between, even if this one is not a complete one, this one is a complete one, between, let's say, these two, the B17 and B12. So, huge disparity in size between the different stelae of the corpus. There is also a disparity in scripts and styles. The first Kufic script we observed, this Kufic script persisted until the mid-11th century, and it gave way to a distinctive Kufic script with distinctive features such as bifid endings. You can see here, where are they? Not on this one, not bifid. No, okay, this one doesn't show bifid endings, but it shows, which is more striking, heart-shaped letters. You can see here or here the letters Ain and Rein are engraved in the form of hearts, which is a feature we already came across in other corpuses, like in 10th century Egypt. However, at the same period, mid-11th century, a rough, very rough Kufic script also emerged, as on this stele, which is quite contemporary, quite the same period than the previous one. And you see how different is the script. Very rough and very superficially engraved. In fact, it looks like it resembles it looks like graffiti. It's very superficially engraved. And both stelae are, almost were almost engraved at the same moment in the same place. This is very interesting because it shows that scripts are not a definitive clue to date stelae without a date in the epitaphs. Script is not enough to say, okay, this stelae belong to, let's say, the 10th or the 11th century. The same period, the same place, we have two different stelae with two very different scripts. Lastly, a more transitional style with a more cursive script is documented on the few stelae preserved between the mid-12th century and mid-13th century. This transitional script is foreshadowing the Nasri. It's almost Nasri script. We have very few examples, very few. This one is the latest stele of the corpus, dated to 656 Hijra, 1258 Common Era. Decoration also evolves. The most recurring motifs were initially herringbone and wavelet patterns. You have here, here the wavelets, here, yeah, and herringbone. What is the best example? This one maybe. So herringbone, wavelet patterns, very crude, very simple, and also, which is more interesting for us, 6-pointed stars, hexagrams. You have here a beautiful example of 6-pointed star or hexagram, and I shall go back to this issue later. We have several other examples from Arras cemeteries. hexagrams, six-pointed stars, were associated customarily were associated with the seal of Solomon, Khatim Suleiman. The Khatim Suleiman, the seal of Solomon, which was supposed to protect the deceased at the time of the tomb's judgment. Oddly enough, six-pointed star disappeared in Biled corpus during the 11th century, but we will find them again later in Arra corpus. They disappeared in Biled corpus during the 11th century, and many stelae were then adorned with a simple ansa, like this here, an ansa, and later on, stelae were mostly devoid of any decoration. So far, I have not mentioned the epitaphs themselves and what they can tell us about the Muslim community of Biled. To avoid being too lengthy, let's analyze a single example. Very interesting one because also attested with by a pair of twin stelae, a pair of twin stelae engraved in 448 Hijra, 1056 Common Era, engraved for the same individual. As you can see here, these two stelae engraved for the same individual were not engraved by the same hand. This suggests that multiple craftsmen were active in Biled at the same time. The two epitaphs are not exactly identical, but they follow the same structure. We have first a basmala, which is followed by a Quranic quotation, then followed by the phrase "Hadha qabr," this is the tomb of. Then followed by the name of the deceased, the date of his death, and what is very interesting, the date of his death on the second stele is recorded to the day of the death. Here, the 16th past of the month of Muharram of the year 448. And finally, at the end of the epitaph, a prayer for the Prophet and his family. The Quranic quotation used in both epitaphs, in both cases, is Surat Al-Ikhlas, Surah 112, Surat Al-Ikhlas, a surah which highlights the doctrine of the divine unity and which challenges the Christian doctrine of incarnation. Surat Al-Ikhlas is relevant to both the Muslim community and its Christian neighbors. And this surah is commonly found in Biled on funerary stelae, as well as in other similar cases. I think especially of Muslim cemeteries in Christian Nubia, I mean in the same situation of Muslim communities settled in a Christian environment. Funerary stelae very often display the Surat Al-Ikhlas. Nonetheless, it is worth noting that the repertoire of Quranic quotations in the Biled corpus is quite extensive because we have 14 different verses appearing on 32 complete epitaphs containing Quranic quotations. So, yeah, it's quite a large repertoire with some quotations that are to be found more often, such as Surat Al-Ikhlas, and also the verse 185 of the Surah Al-Imran, if I'm not wrong, which begins Kul Nafs Dha'iqat al-Maut, which is very common also on Biled epitaphs. In the present case, the name of the deceased is interesting for two main reasons. His nasab, Ibn Ahmad ibn Ja'far, indicates a Muslim lineage through the Arabic names of his father and grandfather. However, the personal name, the ism of the deceased. Muzayyino most likely results from the addition of the suffix "au," which is a suffix we find in local language. Results from the addition of the suffix "au" to the Arabic name Muzayyin. This suggests that the deceased was born in Tigray, likely to a Muslim father and to a possibly non-Muslim or converted to Islam mother, a mother who carried a local identity. And actually, several Muslim women buried in Bilet were bearing a non-Arabic name, possibly borrowed to the Tigrinya language. Additionally, this deceased was also bearing a nisba, a relation name, the nisba Damamili. This nisba, this relation name, connects his origin to the city of Damamil. Damamil is in Upper Egypt, close to the city of Kous. Kous was, at that time, we are in the 11th century, Kous was an important city. It was the main garrison place for the Fatimid garrisons in Upper Egypt, and a quite important city at that time. So the stele of Muzayyino at Damamili highlights a connection between Bilet and Upper Egypt, between the cemetery of Bilet, Ethiopia, where he died and was buried, and Damamil in Upper Egypt, from where he came, or from where his family came. And this Egyptian connection of the Bilet community is further confirmed by this shard, which a single glazed pottery shard found during the excavation of the cemetery, which is characteristic of Fatimid Egyptian ceramics. So we have one more clue to document the connection between Bilet and Egypt in the 11th century. Muzayyino at Damamili is not the only deceased in Bilet claiming foreign ancestry, foreign to Tigray. I have already mentioned the Yamami family, which is well represented in the corpus, but we also find in Bilet a certain Al-Makki, originally from Mecca. And in addition, the only stele recovered in primary position, here at the beginning of the excavation, here after excavation, this stele commemorates the memory of a certain Abu Muhammad al-Hassan al-Farisi, claiming ancestry from Fars, who died in Bilet in 431 Hijra, 1040 Common Era. So, based on our current knowledge, the community of Bilet appears to be connected to the Red Sea networks and beyond, even beyond, connected to the Red Sea networks and Upper Egypt, to the Yamama, and beyond, even to the Fars. But this community appears also deeply rooted in the Ethiopian landscape, which was at that time dominated by Christian neighbors. The Muslims of Bilet openly displayed their faith by adorning their tombs with inscribed stelae, using Arabic script, using also Islamic calendar, recording the date of their dead in the Islamic calendar and the Hijra era. The practice of funerary epigraphy appears in medieval Ethiopia to be distinctively characteristic of the Muslim communities, since examples of Christian epitaphs known to date are very, very few. The community of Bilet, in blue on this slide, reached its peak, in terms of the number of deceased buried in the cemetery, but it reflects also the dynamic of the community itself, the dynamic of the living themselves. The community reached its peak in terms of the death between the years 1030 and the years 1080. However, the community continued until the mid-13th century with the latest stele in the corpus dated to 656 Hijra, 1258 Common Era. I will now briefly present the corpus of the Habera mountain graveyards, Habera mountain cemeteries, close to the village of Arra. You have here the village of Hara, the escarpment which leads to the lowlands. Here we are on the highlands. And the Habera mountain with several cemeteries scattered on its base, slopes, and summits. Due to the lack of excavation, our research has been limited so far to surface observations. The 7 cemeteries of Habera mountain are nowadays integrated into a ziyara circuit followed by present-day Muslims. Islam seems to have disappeared from the area at an unknown date, before being reintroduced in the early 19th century by Faqih Muhammad, a revered figure buried in the village of Arra. But there is no evidence that all these cemeteries date back to the Middle Ages, or no evidence neither that they were all Muslim cemeteries. Actually, the tomb markers which mark the tomb on the surface are much more varied than in Bilet. We have rectangular markers, circular, nave-shaped markers. We have a wide range, a very rich typology of surface markers, very different than the markers identified in Bilet. Actually, the rectangular platform which used to mark the tombs in Bilet cannot be found on Habera mountain. However, they can be found in the present-day Christian cemeteries of Arra, which suggests that tomb markers are actually not distinctive indicators of the community affiliation of the deceased. Tomb markers are not distinctive of their religion, but funerary stelae definitively are distinctive indicators. 3 cemeteries in Habera mountain have yielded funerary stelae engraved with Arabic epitaphs. Sandstones are more numerous than in Bilet, such as here, this sample on the picture. The stelae of Habera mountain date from the 13th century to the 14th century, ranging more precisely between the 1220s to the 1370s. They all exhibit forms of cursive writing, representing a transitional style towards Nasri. The stelae do not possess any decorative elements, such as herringbone, wavy patterns, or ansa. However, several stelae from the cemeteries of Habera mountain, dated to the late 13th century, feature 6 pointed stars. You have here 3 different samples of stelae with hexagrams or seals of Solomon. Here at the end of the Basmala. Here also at the end of the Basmala, it is a fragment, but we can read the end of the Basmala. And on this 3rd sample, 3 6-pointed stars on the basis of the stelae at the end of the epitaph itself. I must add that the practice of twin stelae observed in Bilet is also present in the Habera corpus. Okay, I will conclude in a few minutes. Epitaphs follow the same structure as those in Bilet, but introduce new formulations, such as a blessing for the two parents of the deceased. Women are actually fewer in number compared to the Bilet corpus, but are still significantly represented. Onomastics, exclusively Arabic in Arra, do not exhibit any of the specificities found in Bilet, such as Nisbas claiming a foreign origin to Tigray. Overall, the Habera corpus portrays communities that are less oriented towards the outside world and reflecting probably a more exclusively Ethiopian form of Islam. However, several questions remain unanswered to this day. Why are so many cemeteries concentrated in the Habera mountain region? Where did the living who buried their dead, where did they settle? Were they semi-nomadic populations returning to the region at fixed periods? The fact is that Habera cemeteries are located 2.5 kilometers in a straight line from the village of Arra, which means 4 to 5 hour walk in rugged terrain. And there is no evidence that these cemeteries were used by the residents of Arra to bury their dead. Other question, why were the 3 medieval cemeteries in the mountain not used simultaneously? What logic governed the choice of a particular place for burying the deceased? All these issues are awaiting for further research, as soon as we will able to resume survey and excavation and to meet again our friends and colleagues and the people of Ethiopia. Thank you very much.